hated to practice. My dad forced me to practice a half an hour every day, and I would set a timer. And when 30 minutes was up, I would run out into the yard and play. I didn't want to practice. So when I discovered jazz music, like, because I really loved it, it felt more like my thing.
Oh, it's in your blood.
I felt like I wanted to do it. Yeah. Okay.
For you, because I know you play alto saxophone and tenor as well, what are the different characters for these two instruments?
It's so great because, I mean, you listen to it, you can hear the difference. For me, there's so many different ways to answer that question because there's a sound quality. The tenor is a little bit more like a male voice range. Yeah. And there's something that makes the tenor feel more natural to me because of that. Whereas the alto is a bit higher. Brighter too. And there's a brightness inherent in a brighter, higher pitched thing. But also the alto sax, for some reason, suggests to me more specific music, like bebop, or more free jazz, like Ornette Coleman. Whereas the tenor, I feel like there's a little bit more gray area. And I think about the players that I really like the way they play it, I feel like they have all of that. They have free, they have bebop, they have swing, they have like Joe Lovano, or people who just can encompass all these different styles and be modern and old-fashioned at the same time.
Yeah, when I was listening to Sonny Stitt, he switched around the instrument, brings such a different character and spirits with the music. And the album Blues Devil Blues, that's one was such a perfect snapshot away from Charlie Parker's, but developed his own blues-infected sound and solos.
Yeah.
I really love his articulation because right now I'm listening to tons of saxophone solos just to kind of copy, the dynamics, the accents, instead of being a typewriter.
I think when you listen to Sonny Stitt, and this is like, again, going back to the language and the lineage of the music, Stitt claimed that he and Charlie Parker discovered bebop at the same time, independently. Like you'll hear Sonny Stitt talking about that, because man, we discovered this at the same time. I didn't get my language from Charlie Parker, but I don't quite buy that. I think that he got a lot of his inspiration and his language directly from Charlie Parker. Yeah. I'm not a historian, but that's my feeling. And I feel like there are so many alto players. There are not that many left anymore. Charles McPherson is one of the only ones really who still plays with that sort of fluidity and that sort of that language, and it just pours out of him. I had a chance to play with him recently, and it was so inspiring. But you're right about the articulation. There's something about the way that the bebop, how they tongue every other note, or they create a certain kind of way of phrasing that is da da da, right? It's like
I just felt it frees me up a little more.
Yeah.
Try not to think about all those numbers and patterns. Although I'm a nerdy person, sometimes get very nerdy.
Yeah.
But I felt it just blocks my playing a little bit. And when I'm thinking back into my classical way of playing, I will give each note a meaning. But if I play that in jazz, it might be too much, because I think jazz has a different spirit.
But like, think about whole phrases of music, whole pieces of statements and stuff like that. And like sometimes there are players like Sal Nestico, he was a saxophone player who tongued almost every note. But then you hear someone like Charles McPherson who it just comes out, and it's not a lot of articulation, it just flows, and it's just this stream of beauty that comes out of his horn.
When you compose that, have you found any new relationship with the music?
Yeah, in a lot of ways, because I had to sort of let go of my idea of what is correct, right? Like melody. Like when I transcribed Churchill's speech. And, the notes are all over the place. I couldn't control where that melody was going. I had to figure out some sort of harmonic environment. I had to create a context for all of those notes. So I had to give up a lot of what I thought was normal cadence and be loyal to this melody. Because harmony has always been so important to me. Harmony is the thing that turns me on so much and makes me really like excited about music, is the depth of harmony and chords. So here I had to focus more on melody to begin with. And that was something that took me a little out of my comfort zone, made me say, well, the melody is the music here, because that's what I transcribed. How do I frame the melody and give it strength and support? And that was different for me. That challenged me quite a lot.
Did you imagine the whole orchestration sound when you composed it?
No, that's a great question, right? Because I think that some people might be already hearing the orchestrations. For me, no, it was more, in some cases, yeah, because you can't help but to imagine things ahead of time. But for the most part, it was to really create this context, figure out chords, rhythms, what kind of time signature it was going to be in, what kind of groove or swing, or what was the feel. And those were the things that I focused on first. Then I started to listen. When I say listen, it's like sometimes I talk about listening, but it's really listening to your mind, right? Because your imagination is really, really critical. Like you have to imagine where this is going to go. It's almost like you close your eyes, and I literally will do that. I'll close my eyes. I'll lay down on the couch, and I'll say, where is this going? Because it's like almost like it already exists. I have to find it. Does that make sense?
For a lot of composers, they like to fill in with a lot of things, but I felt you are leaving out space. So what's your ideas about space and rests and sounds?
Well, a lot of people talk about space as being part of the music, right? I mean, that's something that we do learn, which is hard because we tend to, our tendency is to want to only look at what we're playing, or what the notes are being played as the music. I mean, that's just a tendency. That's why you hear so many soloists, improvisers, playing way too many notes, because we're fixated on the fact that what we play is what's important. But what you said is so important, and that's the space. But it has to be natural. So space can be like breath. That's how I look at it. Like, is the space natural? If I keep talking and I don't take a breath, even you listening to me, you'll start to feel like you got to breathe, because you'll be like, oh my God, there needs to be a breath in there.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's like that with music. So for me, really successful music has breath, but it has it naturally. So you could start by forcing it. Oh, I need to take a break. I need to put a space in there. Then I need to put another space in there. And if it's like that, it's not as natural. But if it just flows in a natural way, then the spaces are more like breaths, not like just decisions.
Do you have a favorite movement in the suite?
Oh, well, there are different reasons why I like certain things. Okay, because like I brought up Churchill, because it created a certain, like, it just kept moving and changing and moving, and I really love that the fact that these melodic statements forced me to really think about where this harmony is going to go in these chord structures, and choosing chords that don't necessarily follow a normal cadence, which put me out of my comfort zone a little bit, forced me to accept certain sounds that I wouldn't have thought of if I had just started from scratch. So I love what happened there because of that. Like, I love listening to that and saying, oh, I was guided by this thematic material. I love Mandela. I love the spirit of it, because it feels to me when I hear it, the melody, it's his actual pitches. But I cheated a little bit on that one, because I kept it all in one key. So if the notes went out a little bit, I just bent them a little and I put it into the key of that. So I broke some of my own rules, but I like the result of that. That we don't have to be, we create rules, but we don't have to necessarily stick to them. It's like 20th century classical music. They had all these rules, the golden mean and the 12th tone and all of that. But for me, the most successful music for that period was stuff that broke the rules and had a little bit more, I don't know, melodic quality.
Yeah, I think music is just a code that you can break into and tackle into the emotional states, the cultural state of mind. And if you're looking at the state of music, you're really actually looking at the state of brain.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar. And since we were talking about phrase, we have to talk about numbers. Like Shakespeare, to be or not to be, that is a question, and that's 11 words, and that's a prime number, and that has a different emphasis of the strings, the power. So I think it's very interesting looking at it from that part, and the inspiration certainly comes from. I think, for me, I love Churchill's addresses the most. Maybe because you were suggesting a different kind of phrasing. I think sometimes in emotions too, music too, the greatest was not the simplest, right? It always has to combine with all different emotions. Yeah.
I love what you said about the prime numbers and things like that, because sometimes people will incorporate mathematics into their composing.
Yeah.
And I think when that's successful, we're not aware of it. We're not aware of the math. We're not aware of those choices that the composer made. They did that to give themselves inspiration or find new ways of shaping and creating, right? I mean, I don't know, I'm not an expert in that, but like when I use certain rules or certain things like that, I like when they're not discoverable by the people who are listening to it necessarily. It's not like, oh, he's doing this or it's that or whatever. It's just, it's your personal thing that you almost hide in there. It's like but you want people to respond to the overall feeling of the music. And if it gets too mathematical or rule oriented, then maybe you can lose some of that. Like, I was working with Glenn Close, the actress, and I asked her about her process. Like, well, how does she prepare for her roles? Because she's so amazing. She could become all these different people in her movies. And she goes, well, I don't really have a method. I just use my imagination. I thought, that's such a simple answer. But then I realized that is the key to everything, your imagination, because your imagination and my imagination are different things. And if we access our imaginations, we can imagine what this thing can be, whether it's hearing it, seeing it. I think for the art, the paintings, they triggered my imagination a lot. So using paintings helped me. And plus, we could talk about textures and colors and line and shape and form and all these things that are the same, and that we use those terms in art, we use it in music. And texture is such a beautiful one, right? I mean, how we interpret that. And I think that was just very inspiring to be able to look at these master paintings and think of how to express them in musical terms.
Right. So you find your new art stroke brushes.
Yeah,
Sound
exactly.
palettes. Let's go back to the teaching aspect for a while. Do you have a format of ways of looking at pieces or looking at compositions or practicing? I know you personally have written about like 3 method books plus 1 of the asymmetrical patterns for saxophone players. Do you want to talk a bit about it?
When I thought there was something that would be helpful to students, or thinking that there's something lacking in their education, so how can I address that? The patterns book is interesting because it's called Asymmetrical Patterns. And I think a lot about how in nature, what's beautiful is not how things are absolutely perfect patterns, like repeated patterns, but how things are different. So patterns can come up in different ways. Like we see patterns spread across different types of life, like rivers and then leaves off a tree. Like there's a pattern to things, right? But in music, a pattern like that's a pattern. But I can think of different ways to create patterns that are asymmetrical because I'm changing different parameters, like changing what I think about harmonically as I change the pattern at the same time. It probably won't make sense hearing me talk about it, but let's say, well, I was backstage with Paul Nizzella. He's a baritone saxophone player. And so we started to challenge each other. All right, let's do a pattern where we come down in major arpeggios. So we have to, whatever, just like crazy things like that. So we're playing and trying to, I made a mistake or whatever. And I realized that it made your brain work really hard. Sometimes we don't challenge ourselves in every way possible. And I think that idea development and keeping track of where things are supposed to go can be difficult. And so we were making it just a fun warm-up in the backstage area. But I sort of thought, oh, this would be a fun book to do. So I made this long book with all these patterns and tried to explain my concept and theory about it. But
what would you suggest students to pair those exercises?
well, again, like the idea of the exercise, the pattern exercise, is to use your brain.
We have a applicant who submit a little video clip of his playing. Let's hear it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really nice. Yeah. So it's Autumn Leaves. So we talk about standards, and that's people love to play on that tune. What I notice about him, he's got some of George Benson's language, like some of his little phrases and things that he played feels like it comes from that. But he's playing very modally. And that song, it allows you to play just sort of modally, which I mean like kind of just one scale or just a couple different scales, and you can just make all these melodies. But he's got such a great intuition for leaving space, creating really clear ideas. I don't think he has a lot of language in terms of like how to create cadence and resolve, like 5-to-1 cadence and stuff like that. Doesn't seem to be very strong, but I didn't miss it because of the absolute clarity that he brought to his ideas. And he has some soul too.
He's actually not in music major, he's in physics major at Tufts University.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's so great.
Yeah. Actually, I'm curious if you can play your version of maybe this solo. We would like to hear that.
So anyway, I haven't played that tune in a long time. Yeah, it's so interesting because you just play, right? And I felt like, because we were talking about so many things, I started thinking about, I'm playing too many notes. Oh, I'm not playing enough ideas. Oh, I'm not addressing the harmony enough. So you start to think about all of these things, especially when we're just talking about it, instead of being maybe as natural as I could be. Plus, I hit myself on the side of the thing, but yeah. Yeah.
So I would like to close today's episode by Ted Nash's quote, transformation is the highest expression of change. So for Ted Nash, it's narrative, it's personal story. And as we musicians, we have to reflect upon ourselves that while we're making music, when we're practicing, don't forget that we are the narrative of our own journey. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And thank you so much for your time and supporting Wisdom, Ted Nash.
Thank you. That was really beautiful what you just said. Anyway, thank you for having me. It was really nice to talk to you.